Hello and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'll be talking all about books. More specifically, what books I read in 2022, what was my least favorite book of 2022, and what was my most favorite book of 2022. So be sure to stick around. Like I said, in today's video, talking all about books. And, yeah. I had a pretty decent reading year in 2022. I didn't read as much as I would have liked for having bought as many books as I did. But you know what? That's happened sometimes, and that happened. So, yeah, like, I had a pretty decent reading year for myself. I wouldn't say I read a lot of books, considering what many on BookTube read in a month, or people who have book blogs read in a month. I probably read what they read in about a month in about a year. You know, for me, it's like, sometimes I don't read every day, and, you know, it's hard to read during the day, especially since it's like if it's nice out, I'd rather just go out than sit home and read a book. Like, I'd rather just read at night when, like, there's something to do. So, yeah. So before I get into my number of books that I read in 2022, keep in mind, it's not a high number. Like I said, it's probably what most people might read in about a month who, you know, read a lot. Okay, so here is my number. I read a total of, drumroll please, silence, 7 books. In 2022, I read 7 books. Yeah. Okay. So, like I said, low number, but decent for me. That's honestly a little bit more than I usually read. Usually 5 or 6 is about my average, but 2023, I made a goal to read, let's say it right now. Let's see, what should I say? I'm gonna go for, let's say 20 or 25 or 30 books. That's my goal. Now, I'm leaving the number open-ended right now because I probably won't be able to stick to my reading goal, because I usually don't. But I'm buying a lot of books recently. I bought a lot of books in 2022, so I'm like really motivated to get my money's worth and read what I bought, you know? Anyway, so yeah, read 7 books. And so I will say what I read, who wrote it, the genre, my star rating. Now, I'm only going to talk mostly about my least favorite and most favorite books, since I only read 7. It seems silly to talk about each individual book, especially since I actually wrote, I think with the exception of one book, I wrote a review on my blog, link in the description below. I wrote a review for every book I read, spoiler free. And if there is a spoiler, I am sure to mention spoiler before I say the spoiler. But yeah, so if you're curious about the books I am talking about today, you are more than happy to check out my blog and get a little bit more of a feel of what I thought of them and like the overview and stuff like that. So let's get started. Okay, so my favorite, oops, spoiler. My first book that I finished reading in 2022 was Normal People by Sally Rooney. Now, this is so Normal People by Sally Rooney, fiction, my star rating, 500. It was the perfect book. I loved it so much, and I will be talking more about this a little bit later, because I already gave away that this was my favorite book of the year. Okay, so my next book that I finished reading in 2022 was A Picnic at Hanging Rock by Joan Lindsay. This is historical fiction, and I didn't actually give a rating for this on my blog, because I guess I wasn't starting that. For the first few reviews, I didn't do a star rating. So, on the spot right now, wasn't a favorite, hint hint, least favorite of the year. But, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm going to talk more about this later, so I don't know why I'm getting, okay, so Picnic at Hanging Rock by Joan Lindsay. Oh, Picnic at Hanging Rock. I always say Picnic at Hanging Rock by Joan Lindsay. Historical fiction, and I am going to rate this a 3.25. Yeah. Okay. My next book that I finished reading in 2022 was Sadie by Courtney Summers. Genre is thriller, and I would rate this a 3.75. The next book I finished reading in 2022 was Ellie Weather by Maria Amparo Escandon. This is like a family drama fiction. And I really liked this book, and I rated it a 4 stars. The next book, I read a series next, so I'll talk about my ratings and all that individually. But to finish out the year, I read The Summer I Turned Pretty series by Jenny Han. Now, I was going to say she also wrote the To All the Boys I Loved Before series. I didn't read that this year, but yeah. So, it's YA romance fiction, and my rating for The Summer I Turned Pretty was, I rated this 4.5 stars. It's Not Summer Without You, I rated 5 stars. I know a lot of people didn't really like book 2 and 3 of the series, but I don't know, I just really liked the second book. What can I say? 5 stars. And the last book in the series, Will Always Have Summer, 4.5 stars. Okay, so those are all the books that I read. I actually did read, like I mentioned in my last video, I was reading It's Something in the Water by Catherine Steadman. I actually did finish that just shy of December ending. I finished it like a few days into January. So at some point, like on my blog and on this channel, I'll say my thoughts on it. Hope, spoiler free and all that. Because nobody likes spoilers, and I try my best to avoid them. Because someone could be reading something I'm talking about, someone could be watching a show I'm talking about. So yeah. Now, I'm going to be talking about my least favorite and most favorite book of the year. Now, what should I start with first? My least favorite, most favorite. I guess we'll end the video on a positive note, so I'll start with my least favorite. And I always feel bad saying when I don't like honestly, since I began reading a few years ago, I really have enjoyed everything I've read. I really am not too critical on books when I don't like them. I try to find a way to like them, I guess. I don't know. I've been lucky, I guess, in that sense. I don't know. So my least favorite book, unfortunately, was Picnic at Hanging Rock by Joan Lindsay. Like I've mentioned before, it's a historical fiction novel. And, yeah, so honestly, I never would have known about this. This book was written, I believe, I'll check, just to make sure I know what I'm talking about. This book was written in 1967. So, I was born in the 80s, so not a book I grew up, knowing about. Grew up reading like Babysitter Club, so yeah, this wasn't a book that I ever heard about until the Amazon Prime series came out, and I saw the trailer, and I was like, this looks interesting, very mysterious, and I'm like, I am curious about it. So I'm like, I picked up the book shortly after seeing the trailer, and did I read it right away? No. I think I bought this, I don't remember when the series came out, honestly. I did write a book adaptation review for the series on my blog, if you're curious about the series after you read and then watch it or whatever. But yeah, I didn't read it right away, and I don't last year I was just like, I want to watch the show already. This is ridiculous. So I was like, I'll just read the book. So I read the book, and it wasn't horrible. It was okay, but it wasn't probably something I would be like, you gotta read this. And I feel like it's interesting that I feel that way because this book was very popular at the time that it came out. So I don't know if I'm missing something or it's just not for me. What I think was the case with me is like I said, I don't read every day. And I feel like with certain books, I've learned that it would be best to read something in one sitting, or at the very least within the week. So this took me about 2 months to finish reading, just because, like I said, I read there. I'm not a great reader when it comes to books sometimes. So, I'm getting off track like I usually do. Anyway, so this is based on true events. Now, the story is not, the character names, I believe, have changed. I believe so. There's a little forward in here somebody wrote a forward in here about forward, explaining I guess, the inspiration for her writing this, the inspiration for Lindsay writing this story. So you get a little bit more of an idea of what it's about before you read it. It's based on true events, and I don't really think it's giving anything away, but potential spoiler if you're curious. Like I said, based on true events, and it kind of the inspiration for the book is based on a story that never was solved. So at the end of the book, nothing really gets solved, and that's really not my issue. The problem I had with this book was there were so many characters thrown at you immediately that I was just overwhelmed, and I found myself feeling completely lost. Next, the way the author, the way she wrote just did not flow for my brain or something, and I actually never do this, but I ended up having to read like probably the first few chapters every sentence out loud because I couldn't understand what I was reading. But after like 30 or so pages, I started to get into the story, and I would say the last 70 pages is when I really actually did start to turn around and like the book as much as I could have for not really liking it. And it helped me discover that this is a slow burn mystery. Like, it's very slow. It's like slow. So I feel like if you read it like I did here and there, you're not going to get the full effect. You have to read something like this in one sitting to grasp the, the story better. Like, it's like a wave, an ocean wave, and as the ocean wave gets bigger, the story expands and the mystery deepens. And the way I read it was just not a great way to wait. You have to read it in one sitting, I think, if you want to enjoy it at all. That's my opinion, at least. So like I said, I ended up liking the book, but I'm mad at myself for not reading it in a better way. And I just have to go based on my overall feeling, which is meh. It wasn't my favorite. Sorry. So yeah, 3.25 stars. And I mean, you could check it out. I'm actually curious, like maybe in a few years, maybe I might reread it in one sitting. Maybe I'd like it more, Moving on, I probably talked too much about that, but whatever. Now for my favorite book of 2022, a book people either love or they don't love. Normal People by Sally Rooney. 5 stars. 100 stars. 500 stars. This was such a good book. I don't know, I never read anything by Sally Rooney before. I do have her other 2 books now, so hopefully getting around to reading those this year. I know a lot of people like Conversations with Friends. I'm not sure if they loved her newest book, but a lot of people seem to really love this book, like myself, or they really do not like this. Like, they really don't like this. And I am one of those people that really likes this. I feel like this is a book that you could really enjoy if you are, I don't know, I have a way of looking at the existential side of life sometimes, and this is very much an existential book. I know that the relationship people don't really care for. I think it's because it's like on off. They don't communicate very well with one another, and it's like when they, the ending isn't what it's like. Not a happy ending, not a horrible, it's not a happy ending per se. It's more of like a bittersweet ending because, spoiler free, Jody. I almost forgot for that for a second. So yeah, I normally never do this, but I'm gonna read out because I really don't care. I don't really care for when people like talk out loud reading books. It's like, ugh. But there is a sentence in here that made me fall in love with this book and just relate to it. And it's on page 11, I believe. Just gotta find it for a second. Should have done this beforehand. I see that now. Let's see. I think it's on page 11 at least. I'm so sorry for the delay. Let me see. Oh yeah, because I wrote this in, I try to write a few favorite quotes of mine, even if I don't care for the book, in my blog reviews. So yeah, that's how I remembered about this quote. Okay, so it said, it says, Marianne had the sense that her real life was happening somewhere very far away, happening without her, and she didn't know if she would ever find out where it was and become a part of it. Now, I like sometimes wonder that about my life too, because it's like, you wonder, like, I don't know, and then TV show The Flash, you know, like how I'm like so far behind on that show, so if it's bad now, I apologize. But like, I haven't watched that show in a few years, but I'm just like mentioning it for like a reference. Like in The Flash, there are like, you know, different universes, different Earths, I believe, Earth 1, Earth 2, where like you exist in a different realm somewhere else. You're not yourself, you're like a different version of yourself. And it's like, I always wonder that. Like, I just really liked when Mooney wrote that, because it's like, sometimes in life you're like, am I having a better life like somewhere else in a different world, you know? So, I just feel like if you like, I wouldn't say sad stories, but stories that aren't perfect, that like are flawed, almost like realistic in a way, existential, and maybe the ending isn't overall a happy one, but you know, sometimes life isn't that happy, and you can relate to stories like that. And I think it's a relatable story for anyone that's ever been like hurt by someone else, or like, you know, yeah. I just, you know, it's like a story about people who are lost that find one another but are still like lost in a way. But I really can't recommend this enough. I know a lot of people like it or don't like it, so it's like, I don't know, it's like, for me it's a recommend to read, but I can't guarantee you're gonna like it if you read it, because a lot of people seem to not like it for whatever reason. I don't understand it. But I've rambled so much in this video. I'm sorry. So yeah, these are all the books that I read this year. Ooh, like I said, 5 stars. Yeah, so I just thought, you know, before it's too far into January, so far into January that's February, like, let me talk about what books I read last year. And I'm not sure I'll do like a TBR, a to be read for January. I did finish reading Something in the Word by Catherine Stedman. I'm currently reading a new book, and I can't remember the author's name, so I will get back to you on. It's called The Lost Ticket, and it's really good so far. I feel like it's gonna make me cry, which I normally don't do in books, or even in, you know, I normally don't cry. I mean, Normal People was like a sad book in a way, and I didn't cry, but I felt something. I really enjoyed it. I recommend it. But yeah, this video is way longer than I thought it would be, and I don't even think most people will stick around after a few minutes. So I don't know why I'm still talking, but I thank you so much for sticking around to the end of the video. My many thanks. And you know, if you tell me what you read in 2022, what was your least favorite book? What was your most favorite book? Let me know in the comments. And what are you hoping to read in 2023? Okay, thanks so much for tuning into my latest video, and until next time, bye.